Hey everybody, welcome to the Adventist Hoops podcast. Today I have a special guest coming all the way from Madagascar in Africa. This is Tim McGuire. Tim, welcome to the Adventist Hoops podcast.
Hey, Dustin, a pleasure, man. So grateful to be here.
So Tim, you got quite the journey that's in basketball really has taken you around the world quite literally and introduced you to a whole new world of things that you are involved with now. So I want to get to all of that, but I'm curious how you got to Madagascar, Africa, and how basketball got you there. Where did you grow up? Where did you play? And give us sort of just the overview of your story.
Sure, man. Well, yeah, again, thanks for the opportunity to share. I didn't start playing basketball until like really seriously until going into the ninth grade. I was at Pine Tree Academy, which is a small Adventist K through 12 school in Maine. And yeah, I didn't start playing until ninth grade.
I just saw
I
their
guess
team play, by the way, last year at the PUC
really
tournament. They came
well,
out.
I
They
think
came
they've
out.
gotten a little bit better. I kind of was sandwiched in when we weren't very good. I wasn't very good. But I guess the teams before me were pretty good, and so when I watched them as a kid, I really wanted to participate when I got old enough. So in ninth grade, I started playing. Um, yeah, man, I don't, my between my senior and junior year, maybe we won like two games in total or something. We played in the with the other public schools, small public schools. So the competition at that time seemed pretty good. But yeah, we didn't win a lot of games. I remember my senior year we went to the which was the now closed Atlantic Union College for their basketball tournament. And I think we won just one game there, but I played pretty well for, as an individual for myself and somehow I guess won the most valuable player. So that, I got a lot of kind of connections that way, and I guess maybe it gave me a little bit more motivation to continue. I really had the goal of playing at Washington Adventist University. And so I went there, and when I went there, I saw that those guys were a lot better than anyone I played with up in Maine. So that was, quite an eye-opening experience. But
Can I ask you
um,
a quick question about the AUC tournament?
sure,
Because frankly, I'd
sure.
not really heard much about that tournament before. What's it like? I mean, is it mostly only schools in the Atlantic Union there, or?
Yeah, it was just Atlantic Union schools. It wasn't very deep. I've heard that, years ago it was the glory days, there was a lot of teams, but I think when I was there, maybe, eight teams or so in each, boys, girls division. Pretty much from there was a couple schools from New York and Boston, Vermont, Maine, maybe a couple others in there. I don't know, but it wasn't very very deep. The schools from like New York and then the schools in Massachusetts were always pretty good, but the the rest of us weren't very competitive. But it was such a fun experience for me at the time. Maine is kind of a sheltered place in a lot of ways. It's beautiful, and I love the people there. It's home, it's where I grew up, but definitely having the opportunity to play basketball somewhere else and see how other people play was really eye-opening experience. And I guess to see the appreciation that people had for me and the way I played the game was really refreshing because I don't know, maybe it was because our team wasn't very good. There wasn't a lot of I never felt like really that appreciated as an individual anyways. So that was a cool kind of even though we weren't very good, didn't win a lot of games, it was a cool kind of capstone of my last year there. So yeah, that was a really cool experience.
Cool. Yeah, I just
Um,
never heard anything about the
yeah,
AUC
yeah.
tournament.
Yeah, it's not like big like, Southwestern or any of the other ones. It was kind of localized to just really the Atlantic Union.
So then, did
Um,
you attend YU for a year, or did you just go visit?
yeah, no, I did. I did attend there, and I was just kind of a gym rat. Like I went to all of the teams. They were like scholarship athletes.
What year was this,
And
by the way?
was 2011, so they were still NCAA Division two at the time. We had guys my freshman year, a guy in my class named Josh Adiyeye. He actually went to Shenandoah Valley for I think one year. But I mean, Josh got major injury twice in college and still played in the G League for the Maine Red Claws. And I think he had one game, like 40 plus points. I mean, Josh was a legitimate NBA player, had offers from Georgetown and UMD. So we had like really top talented guys there. I was nowhere near, especially as a freshman, anywhere close to their level, but I just, kept going to all their practices and for some reason, Patrick Crary, who's now the coach at FAMU, he was like, Timmy, yeah, come on, you can practice with us. So for that year, I practiced with those guys, and I started kind of, I guess, maybe dealing with a little bit of I don't know, being maybe my first year away from home or something. I started getting some anxiety and maybe a little depression and whatnot. So that kind of, I think, stunted my growth as a basketball player. But, big respect to Pat for giving someone like me an opportunity just to be around those guys. It was quite the experience. So as far as basketball goes, after that, I ended up transferring to Andrews University. So just 1 year at WAU, which I loved. I in some ways regretted transferring, but I did. I wasn't planning to play basketball. I didn't play basketball. I think I maybe tried out my junior year, but it was kind of just like a half-halves, just doing it to say I did it. And I remember my senior year at Andrews, my family had moved from Maine down to Florida. So my middle brother was going to Forest Lake Academy, which is a much bigger school than Pine Tree, and he was kind of nervous about the experience. He was a really good basketball player, and I was like, well, I'll go to the summer practices with you, and I did, and I was like, the coach at that time was making them run a lot, and so I was like, what if I just give this my best effort, and I did, and I said, well, at least I have no excuses now if I don't make the team at Andrews. Like, I gave it my best try, and turns out I did make the team at Andrews my senior year. Didn't play a whole lot, which was disappointing, but understandable too. Um, but considering I had another year of eligibility and I didn't really know what I wanted to do at the time, kind of balance between majors. I was like, why don't I look for a graduate program that could be affordable. And I stumbled across this program called Community and International Development. And I was like, well, let me do that. That sounds interesting. Sounds like there's some travel involved and learning about different cultures and whatnot. So I took that program and I did another year
And this is at Andrews.
at Andrews. Yeah. And that year, I think I was a starting point guard that year for my last season. And definitely wish I could have had another year. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. But that was kind of that was it for basketball for a while. I stayed, really competitive, and any league I played in, basketball was always kind of a metric for how I was doing, physically, mentally.
Yes.
Yes, I always felt though that I wanted to, do something a little bit more. And the degree that I just, kind of fell upon, community and international development, ended up bringing me all the way over here to Madagascar. I have a social business startup called Tour One Planet that I'm currently here developing. And last year, a friend of mine who's from here kind of recommended that I try out for one of the professional clubs out here. And this was kind of crazy because just a couple years before I was in a really bad car accident. So it wasn't like there's definitely no professional club that would even consider, having me, but they didn't have to know that, I had been in a car accident. So yeah, I had they just I guess had a little tryout or whatever, and they wanted me to be a part of the team. And so last year, for 5 months, we were training outside, running hills, doing everything. And so until we reached the national tournament, um, in which we won, and that was a really cool experience. Personally, some disappointments just because for one reason or another, the federation didn't want to give me my license to compete until like a little bit later on, I guess. And so I only got to play in two games, but
Is that because of your citizenship, or you're not a
yeah, it was
full-time resident, or?
exactly. It was kind of that's what I was told. I mean, I just have to go with what I was told. Part of me thinks maybe there was something else happening, but it is what it is. I gave my absolute best effort. The two games I did play in, I thought I made a really good showing for myself, so I was happy about that. And to be in a stadium with thousands of screaming fans, was something that a kid from Maine, going to Pine Tree Academy would have never imagined growing up. Um,
So tell
you
us a
know,
little bit about what Madagascar is like, because I mean, people have a idea of maybe what Africa is like in their mind. First of all, Madagascar is not even on the main continent of Africa; it's an island, right? And most people may just know. I mean, there's been a lot of nature shows that have been done on Madagascar because the wildlife and geography is amazing there. What are the people like? What is like society like in Madagascar?
yeah. Well, um, there's that's a great question. What are Malagasy people like? Well, there's a lot of different cultures kind of blended into this country. It's an island, but it's a very big island. I think it's fourth largest island in the world. So it's almost like its own continent. Um, where I am at right now is in the southwestern coast. Most of the people who live here are called Vezu, and they speak the Vezu dialect. If I'm in the capital, which is in the highlands, that's the people that are called the Mern, and the Merna speak their own dialect, and they have their own culture. And I think at least officially, there's 18 different tribes, but even within those tribes, there's different kind of subdivisions. So um, it's kind of complex, but you know, for the most part, people are extremely welcoming and open, curious. Being an American in a place like this is quite unique. Most people that they see that have my skin complexion are from France, or other countries within Europe. So to kind of interact with when they realize you're an American, it's like, oh, this is kind of interesting. Start trying to say NBA players' names to you and stuff like that. Um, it's unfortunately a very poor country. It's according to USAID, it's the poorest non-conflict country in the world. Um, but as you mentioned, I think it's 85% of the plants and animals that you find here in Madagascar you can find nowhere else. Not to mention just the scenery is just breathtaking. I mean, it and you have it all here. And so it makes it quite the interesting destination for travelers. And so that's kind of what for me, what my startup is focusing in on is just creating the access that local communities need to determine their own outcomes of tourism. So when travelers come here and spend their money, who's getting to benefit from it? Is it local communities, or is it foreign multinational corporations? So that's kind of the ethos of what I'm doing, and basketball kind of ended up being a side mission that I ended up going on as well since I've been over here.
What is the basketball scene like in Madagascar?
It's growing. It's growing. In this village where I'm at, I first came here in 2017 for my internship. And I actually, funny enough, met another Adventist here while I was here. Her name's Feinu. We met each other because I told them, they're like eating squid while they're here. And I said, growing up, this was like kind of a taboo. We're not really allowed to eat this in my religion. And they said, oh, that reminds me of someone else I know. So the next morning I was at the basketball court, and that person who they were mentioning was there. And I said, are you Adventist? And she said, are you? And yeah, I ended up kind of building a friendship off of that. And she's graduated from Andrews. She's gotten her master's at Andrews. She's, I think, living in the Berrien Springs area, kind of as a result of that connection. So that was kind of a cool thing. But yeah, here just in this village, soccer is always kind of the biggest thing, but basketball is right there behind it. Whenever I kind of come by here, people get excited and they want to come out and get games going. Um, Definitely, it's growing. There was a big, I think the height of it was maybe 2 years ago. There was the AfroBasket U19 championship, which was here in Madagascar, and Madagascar had a very good showing. Couple exciting stars. There's actually two, a woman and a man, who are playing D1 in the NCAA this coming season, I think at UNC Asheville. Um, so, there it's growing. We have, I think, one indoor court in the whole country. We're talking 30 million people, land-wise the size of Texas. There's one indoor court, but people find a way to do it. It's like if you love basketball, you find a way to do it. And so the love is definitely real here because people are somehow finding a way.
What are some of the most non-traditional training methods that you have used playing basketball on your club?
Dude, there's just so much running. So the club I played for was GNBC, which is historically the most decorated club here in the country. It's the Gendarmerie Nationale Basketball Club. So the gendarme is kind of, I guess, like the equivalent of the National Guard. So it's the military. Um, and so that was an experience in and of itself, like going into the military base every day. And I'm a foreigner, I'm a white dude that doesn't really speak the language too well. um, we just ran so much. I think running is good, but like basketball isn't really like a marathon sport, but it felt like we were preparing to run a marathon sometimes. But you know everyone else had to do it, so we had to do it.
So being at the
Yeah,
military base, you may have had some better facilities and resources, or not necessarily.
you would think so. You would think so. I think the police had better resources than us. I think they were practicing like in the national arena, um, somehow, and they also had like a bunch of expats on their team somehow. Um, but and they didn't have any trouble with their legal documents, but uh, I don't know, whatever that's about. Um, we trained outside, and when I say outside, we have some really nice parks in the U.S. to train at, with nice rims and playing surface that has solid footing. I mean, we didn't have that where we practiced. I mean, I I don't say this to like brag because it's not. I mean, it's nothing really to brag about, but when I would, kind of take my walks sometime, I think, the walk to practice was like 4 kilometers back. Sometimes on Wednesdays, I'd have to leave my house at 4:30 a.m. to get there to be on the bus to run hills. Um, I thought to myself, like, there's no way, like, I don't know another American who would do something like this, and am I just some sicko because I just like want to appreciate this experience? And um, because it's really, you really have to, that's what it's about. It's just appreciating the experience. Last year, a 30-year-old rookie, like I'm not going anywhere, but to be able to be a part of this unit, these guys who've been playing together since they were children, and have, are on billboards here in the country, and to be right next to those guys. um it was a really cool experience, and not to be treated differently. I didn't have, a private taxi come pick me up or anything like that. Like I did find my way just like everyone else did. Um, so, that was a cool experience. No, the facilities are not good at all, and the balls are not good. You got to buy new shoes like every 3 weeks if you want to have good footing. I mean, it's a struggle, but again, if you really love the game and love, kind of what it can do for you, you find a way.
I have always kind of thought that if someone plays at one of our Adventist colleges and are a starter, or a decent, a good player at any of our colleges, there's 8 of our Adventist colleges that have basketball here in the U.S., that you could probably find a place to play somewhere after
Yeah.
college.
I agree. And it's not just like Adventist school or non-Adventist school. It's just about what you're willing to sacrifice. In fact, a lot of overseas clubs, 'cause I've done my overseas research throughout the years. A lot of overseas clubs prefer kids who come from smaller schools because they have less of an ego.
Mhm.
When you go D1, you have the top facilities, the top trainers, dietitians, all of that stuff. But when you go to a small Adventist school, sorry to say at this point right now, we don't really have a lot of resources. I mean, we're lucky if we get team shoes and, backpack and that kind of stuff. We're not really expecting a lot. We just want to play. We just want to have the opportunity to compete. And so I think, stepping into a situation like this, if you're already here doing something and, you feel like, hey, I want to give, playing professionally, like, see what that experience is like. I mean, why not? Why not? And there's no risk for the club. If you're already over here, they don't have to think about, flying you over and getting you set up in some house or anything like, if you're here and they see that you can play, it's a no-brainer for them. Especially because of what you can provide as far as people everywhere want to learn how to speak English, and so having an English speaker that's there present, I mean, it's a big deal for some of these clubs. So I totally agree with you. It's just you have to make things happen on your own. You can't wait for some agent because no agent's gonna come collect you from an Adventist school. There's no money in it for them. You got to find a way to make, kind of chart your own path, make your own connections, and stick your neck out there a little bit. But if you're willing to do that, there are definitely opportunities and experiences out there for you to have for sure.
Maybe we're going to have an Adventist hoop stream of Adventist college players coming to Madagascar now
Yeah, I
to be able
mean,
to play.
yeah, I mean, yeah,
Are you?
I guess people, yeah, but it's tough. It is really tough experience. But if you can, again, I think find, another reason to be out here for me was my startup social business. I was already here, and then it was like, like when am I gonna find a better time to do this than now? I feel good, mentally I feel good. And maybe, given that there's a lot of this club has a lot of fans, it can even help my business grow a little bit, and so that's kind of the decision I made at that time. And I don't regret it. I think it made a lot of sense. And so I think definitely there's opportunities for others out there to do something similar.
Do they have limits on the number of non-residents on the clubs there?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, most clubs from what I've international clubs, it's like most of the time it's like three maximum. And then sometimes there's some other kind of I don't know, loopholes or whatever, but there's always a maximum. But in cases like Madagascar, there's rarely ever expats playing out here because why would an expat come out here to play basketball? There's not really a lot of money in it, and it's a really, I mean, it's halfway across the world. Um, but if you're already out here, then it makes sense to give it a go for sure.
What is the game like versus in the United States? Is there any differences that you noticed?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, FIBA rules are a bit different. As far as, one example is just the ball being on the rim, if ball bounced on the rim once, you can kind of go and grab it, and that would be, goaltending, basket interference, in the US. Um, the game, at least here in Madagascar, is way more fast paced. I mean, it's just like up and down. They make some passes that like I know that, if kids made that at, Andrews or PUC or whatever, they'd be sitting on the bench the rest of the game, but that's normal. It's because it's about like making the break, as fast as you can. If there's a turnover involved, turnovers are just not, I guess, as highly weighted here. More about just
Objectively,
getting
does that mean that in the half court, there's just not as much skill or experience or success in execution that they want to just run more?
it's a good I might be. There's certainly a lot less isolation.
Hmm.
Um, there's just, if the ball, in the US, if we play the way that we play open gyms in the US and come to Madagascar, for example, and play that way, like none of us are gonna play. Like no way they're not, because it looks lazy. It looks just sloppy.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
it doesn't look intentional. For us, it's just like, we're getting ourselves into our set, and then we're finding our best player, the best matchup to go one on one. That's how we play in the US. But here it's like it's all about kind of team concepts, um, you know, moving together. Um, and yeah, I mean, just not letting the ball stick in one person's hands for too long, unless it's your absolute best player, in which, we have one of the best players in Africa on our team. And so, he, rightfully so, gets to play with it a little bit more than the rest of us. But it's about movement, very little dribbling as far as in the half court setting. Yeah, I mean, a lot different. And I would say the court vision that these guys have is a lot more, just ready to see opportunities than it is for us in the US. We look for opportunities for ourselves, find mismatches, those kind of things, which again, that's how we play. But there it's like they're able to really see gaps and openings where they can find their teammates. So inevitably when you play with people for the amount of time I did, you start to pick up on some of those traits, and it's cool to see, just to be able to play different styles. It's like the same. I have a friend who wrote a book called The Same Name, Different Game, and that's kind of the way it is. It's basketball, but it's not the basketball that you really know it.
Mm. What are the parts of the game that you really it's opened your eyes that you enjoy now that you didn't maybe um, appreciate as much?
I think, I mean, whenever you get the opportunity to just be like a team, with these guys, whether or not you can easily communicate with them or not. I mean, there's gonna be like this brotherhood here, like, I mean, that just, I think anyone who has an opportunity to play on any team, like, just appreciate that for as long as you can, because it doesn't last forever. There's nothing like the team that you have in basketball or whatever sport you play. And even in my case, where I don't speak the Malagasy language very well, I don't speak French. And you know, to still find a way to communicate and show my appreciation for these guys and vice versa, it means the world. These guys don't have a lot of money, but they found a way to give me rides when they could. And I always knew they were looking out for me at the same time. Being in the military, they were making sure nothing was going to happen to me. So that's, I appreciate that. And that's the thing I think, I love the most about this game and about that experience, was just the brotherhood of having, a team around you like that.
What was that like coming in and you don't really speak the language? I mean, a lot of times at our schools in the United States, we have international players coming in that maybe don't speak English as well, and it's totally different when you're in their shoes and aren't able to communicate as well. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm used to it in a sense, because that's pretty much everywhere I go here. I've found other ways of communicating besides just, verbally. I mean, I think when you can't communicate so easily verbally, you have to find other ways, to intentionally communicate. And so I did that, but at the same time, they were definitely like hesitant about me at first. Um, I think given the style of play that I came in with, I think they thought I was kind of a ball hog or whatever. And that's like, I mean, I was just playing the way we play in the US. Um, and so you kind of have to just figure it out and adapt, and find ways to just get them to laugh, to open up a little bit. It was challenging. It was isolating. I'm glad that I had one teammate who was always there. Like, he spoke English a little bit. His name was Mommy, and Mommy always like was there, like, to make sure I was okay. And until I kind of was able to make some kind of connection with the others, like, he was the one guy I was able to kind of connect with, because even the coaches, especially the head coach, didn't speak English. And again, my Malagasy limitations made it really difficult. But
Especially as
thanks
a
to
point
Mommy.
guard. I mean, if you're
Uh,
like having to,
yeah,
run
yeah,
sets and
exactly,
understand the whole system and direct
exactly.
traffic, I mean, that would be really
Yeah, I
hard.
mean, just to get the drills, figured out was challenging enough. But you just gotta focus. You just gotta focus on and watch what guys like Mommy's been, on the national team here. He's been around, so even a little bit older than me. So kind of watching how he does things, and just trying to replicate it. And then once you get comfortable replicating it, you kind of add your own, flair to it. And for me, I think I provided something a little bit different. I've always been undersized. I've always been the smallest. And given that, I've, really focused heavy on, being prepared in the weight room. And so, especially coming here to Madagascar, like, yeah, guys are taller than me and whatnot, but I mean, objectively, like there wasn't anyone stronger. So, as a point guard, to be able to create space and get into the lane and make things happen, I was able to, try to, once you kind of understand the concepts, then kind of make your own application. It's not easy, but that's just the process. It's part of the experience.
So fascinating. At this point, are you retired now? Or are you still on a contract there, or what's your status?
No, I'm not on a contract, and I wouldn't say I'm retired either, but I've for this year, wasn't able to kind of work things out in a way that I wanted to with them. Like I've as I get older, realizing my time is, becoming more and more valuable. And so I did kind of sacrifice a lot of growth with my startup last year, in exchange for, focusing on the basketball. And so this year I, focused, on the startup. But I don't know. I'm still pretty, I mean, 31 to some people is maybe not young, but to me it's still young. So if there's an opportunity in the future, yeah, I'm still open for it. But for this year, we're just focusing on business. And I wish GNBC the best. Since we won the national championship here, they qualified to the Road to Ball, which is this Basketball Africa League, is this new league that was sponsored by the NBA and FIBA, and it's kind of like the Champions League of African basketball, if I can put it that way. And so, they have to qualify for the BAL by doing the road to BAL. So I guess they're going to go to Seychelles and then South Africa. And if they qualify those two places, they'll eventually end up in Rwanda, which would have been an awesome experience. It's just, I have to kind of balance what my time is worth. And we didn't, come to good terms, I think. So for me, this year is just focusing on business.
Tell us about it. Tell us about the story of your company.
Yeah. So I first came here 2017. Again, I just started this program because I wanted to play basketball. That's what's kind of crazy. Like I really had no idea what I was going to do, and this program was really cheap. It was like the cheapest master's degree at Andrews. So I was like, okay, cool, I'm gonna do that. And the culmination of the degree happened in 2017, having a study tour to Madagascar. The professor, the director of the program, is from Madagascar. He wasn't even a rich person here, but by God's grace, he found a way to, make his way into the American academic system, and as a postgraduate, and eventually got his PhD, and is now a professor at Andrews. And the study tour, which he did every year for COVID, it was like 6 weeks of a learning exchange. He would take university students in Madagascar and his university students in the US. And, there'd be a lot of, traveling and just on the ground learning um, for development and humanitarian work. And obviously, given Madagascar's circumstances, it was a great place to learn. So that was an amazing experience. And then I also had my internship here. But in between the internship and the end of the study tour, there was maybe like 2 weeks. And my professor, I didn't really know what to do in that gap. He gave me some options, some friends' houses I could stay at. But then he came to me and was like, Tim, if you want, you can go on vacation with me. I'm going to visit my wife's family in the north of the country. It's very beautiful there. You'd love it. I said, wow, Dr. Joel, that's amazing. Thank you. But, I'm a broke college kid. I really had no extra money to spend for any other activity. And he was like, well, if you don't mind, sharing our food, our accommodations, just doing what we do, I'm happy. It's no problem for me if you just come along. And I was like, to this day, that's the single most meaningful thing that anyone has ever done for me. Because Dr. Joel is like, as important as he is in the US, he's even more important here. Like he's a real figure. And for him to, kind of sacrifice his vacation to be with a foreign, white dude from Maine, kind of uncultured like me, to, show me around his country, it meant the world. And, that was, as cool as the internship and the study tour was, that was the most meaningful thing to me. And I just thought to myself, like, you know, I think this kind of experience of really appreciating the authentic culture of a place is, what's really valuable about travel. We can come to Madagascar and go to one of the resorts and hang out at the beach and watch the sunset. Sure, that's nice, but we can do that in Florida too. Like we can do that, somewhere a lot closer to home. What we really want is to, find the most authentic and unique experiences, experiences that we get directly from locals. And I knew that that was really hard to find. And so that's kind of why we created Tour One Planet was, to help experiential travelers looking for those kind of experiences, to find local vendors who could provide them and just make sure that those local vendors, had the access to determine the outcomes of, the money that the travelers were bringing in. Tourism, in a lot of ways, traditionally has not been, it's kind of been used like neo-colonialism in a way, and it hasn't really been used as a tool that's helped. More so, it's hurt local communities. But I believe that, with the right approach, it can be a tool that can be very useful for local communities. And that's just, what we're trying to do with Tour One Planet, and kind of where I've come to after, just trying to play basketball for an extra year at Andrews. It ended up,
It is a
you know,
crazy journey that you've had. I mean, that's
yeah.
amazing. Is there anyone else doing what you're doing in Madagascar right now, or are you kind of it?
Oh, I mean, as far as the business, I'm a solo founder. There are definitely some other companies that have a similar type of approach. Like TripAdvisor has a platform called Viator, and there's companies like Get Your Guide, Tours by Locals. They're all cool. Even Airbnb, for example. They're all cool, but I think that we're the only one that's really focusing on making sure that the local vendor, like they're our primary customer, making sure they have all the tools and the resources they need to be successful so that they can provide the best experiences for their travelers and in turn make sure that they're receiving the value from tourism as a whole. So that's kind of the differentiator, generally speaking, that we have.
So, if people are looking for an experience and travel, they would go through you and be able to kind of have some different options laid out of things they could experience in Madagascar.
Yeah, we have a website, tour1planet.com, and it's just like a platform that just like Airbnb or anything else. And there's locals who are providing those experiences directly. One thing that's really cool is that, you know, in Madagascar, most people don't have bank accounts. And even if they did, it's not possible to really process online payments directly to them. Um, the banks just don't work that way. So, that's one reason that it makes it very hard for kind of locals to be directly involved in that process. Well, we've, kind of, I would say, back engineered or bootlegged a way in which locals can provide those services directly. We can process those online payments, and anyone anywhere in the country can receive, their compensation essentially through their mobile phone. There's mobile money here, and they can go to any cash point and receive their payments. So it's really opened up the market. On average, someone providing, two service, the same service, one in the traditional method, one with Tour One Planet. Tour One Planet, they're earning 5.5 times more than what they would traditionally. So you're surely going to have a better experience with someone who's working with Tour One Planet because they're making more money. And so they're much more, happy to show you that, authentic and unique experience.
Tim, you're a freshman in Maine, starting to play some basketball and getting into it. Would you ever have imagined that your life journey would have taken you all the way to Madagascar?
No, definitely not. No way. No way. There's no way. This place, I'm looking at it right across. There's a little bit of a hill. It's got a statue of Mary, Mother of Jesus. It's kind of a Catholic village here. And she's always like kind of watching out over the fishermen going out to the fishing, far out in the Indian Ocean, the Mozambique Channel here. And I've had moments up there where I've just kind of been up there and just felt the breeze coming in and just thinking to myself, like, I'm just a kid that grew up in from Maine. I'm from Maine. And like, that I'm way out here in a place. I mean, this is Madagascar, but it's even remote for Madagascar. And to be doing what I'm doing, um, it never in a million years would I have imagined it go this way. And as much as, basketball wise, career wise, life wise, there's been a lot of struggles. I'm not sure I would have done it any other way. So, in the case that, basketball played a role in getting me to this point, I mean, it's pretty remarkable. And I'm just really appreciative for, you know, for that, for what the role basketball's had, and just God in general, that's kind of, despite all of the poor decisions that I've made, all the reckless decisions that I've made, like, has found a way to, make sure I'm all right and doing something that I find, purpose in. Just a whole lot of gratitude for that.
Well, you're an unbelievable individual and a really inspiring story just to keep pursuing where God's leading you, no matter where that might be. No matter the conditions. You're losing your sunlight there in Madagascar. It's like 7 a.m. on the west coast here. It's almost sundown there, so we probably should wrap this up. If you're watching on YouTube, we're not going to be able to see him anymore soon. There was a windstorm earlier. We weren't sure if we were going to be able to do it. Internet, who knows what it's going to be like. But Tim, thank you so much for facilitating all this and being able to share your story with our community. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, Dustin, and keep up the great work, man. I mean, there's so many people, both past and current and to come, that are appreciative of the work you're doing for Adventist Hoops. I think there's great potential for hoops to be an incredible, um, you know, mission, for our students in our Adventist schools and for students that aren't in our schools. And so, I think, to continue sharing a spotlight on that is really awesome. And, I encourage you to keep going and with what you're doing.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Tim.
All right, Dustin. See you, man.